Okay, guys, I am super excited to talk about today's topic, which is "You are my rock." Now, I think we all know what that expression means. When somebody says "You are my rock," they are usually referring to their partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but their life partner. And they're really saying that this is a person that I really lean on, that they're very strong, that they're there for me. You are my rock. I would say it doesn't have to be restricted or limited to just people in relationships, but that's usually when you'll hear it. Although you could make that reference, a coach could make that reference about a player, a parent, I suppose, could make that comment, a teacher, things like that, a boss, coworker, not a cow-orker, but a coworker, because you remember, coworker is someone you work with. But if you move that hyphen one over, that becomes a cow orker, and you could get in trouble with HR for that. So anyway, today's program is we are going to be talking about that expression, "You are my rock." So that's the meaning. That's the general meaning of it. We think of it as being a positive thing, not a negative thing, correct? Like no one would say, "Boy, you are my rock," and mean that in a derogatory sense. But I want to kind of introduce a little bit of a variation of this theme. One time I had a friend who had made a comment about her boyfriend saying, "He's my rock," that kind of thing. And then I fired back at her and I said, "Well, what kind of rock is he?" Because we know that there are three basic types of rock. There's metamorphic, there's isosceles, and there is cumulus. You guys know I'm kidding. Metamorphic obviously is a rock type, isosceles is a triangle type, and cumulus is a cloud type. But I am going to circle back with a follow-up episode where I deal with the way that you can correlate triangles and cloud types to relationships, because that's really what I'm getting at here. Is I'm going to make a case that really, depending on what you're saying, and when you are my rock, you really are going to be either metamorphic, and then we'll go to sedimentary, and then finally isosceles. Or no, I'm sorry. I've got isosceles on the brain apparently. Igneous rock. And here's a map of North Dakota, and look at that relationship brewing between the Standard Oiler and the presumed single woman driving into North Dakota to realize her dreams, and her her mission, her quest takes her to North Dakota. We'll come back to that at a future time. We may go to Alice, we may go to Fingal. Okay, so let's take a look at what a metamorphic rock is, and how that would correlate to a person within a relationship who might have it said of them, "You are my metamorphic rock." So a metamorphic rock it was once igneous or sedimentary, but it's changed as a result of intense heat and or pressure within the Earth's crust, and later on it will become crystalline and squashed in texture. From a positive standpoint, this is a person that would really change with the volatility of the relationship. If the other person is very intense all the time, or there's a lot of pressure in the relationship, somebody who's a metamorphic rock is someone who's going to be able to change and adapt with that pressure and that intense heat. And that can be very good, because this could be evidence that this person is flexible, that they're open-minded, that they're adaptable. Having said that, you could also interpret their ability or willingness to change with pressure and intense heat as being pliable, as being pushovers, as being weak, in other words, not being able to withstand the heat and the pressure. But when if someone were to call you their metamorphic rock, I would argue that they are saying that you are somebody who is very flexible and adaptable and changeable and responsive to the intensity and the heat of that a relationship can bring in some cases. The crystalline component intrigues me because we think of that as something kind of pretty, something kind of showy. So this might be somebody who's very confident, right? And then they also have shown this great capacity for changing. But then a squashed texture might also suggest that they, might have their own struggles within and got twisted up. But then again, they are going to be more responsive to somebody else's needs first. So I would say that would be a complimentary kind of a rock to be. I mean, a good one. And if somebody were to call you that. Let's move on to sedimentary. Sedimentary rocks are formed by the accumulation or deposit of mineral or organic particles at the Earth's surface. So a sedimentary rock is one that forms by accumulation and of things being, kind of absorbed or deposited into the identity of this sedimentary rock. Because really what we're talking about are a person's characteristics, kind of their identity, who they are, but in particular within the nature of a relationship. So I guess from a positive standpoint, a sedimentary rock is one that is somebody that forms their identity or their philosophy or their responses in life based on the accumulation of experiences and events that they've gone through. This is actually a good thing to be, I think, because you're being reasonable, that you are gonna how you are is going to be shaped by the things that you encounter and how you encounter them, and the absorption of that certainly means that you're adaptable and open to new ideas, and that can be very healthy within the scope of a relationship. Also, though, the formation of a sedimentary rock, in addition to the accumulation phase, there's also a cementation phase, and this is very critical because cementation, from a positive standpoint, is something that you could say implies strength or permanence. And usually in a relationship, we're thinking forever and ever. We want it to last. We want it to be a permanent relationship. And they lived happily ever after. However, that source of cementation can also make the other person feel trapped, because you are kind of like almost imprisoned within that person's identity. I think there's also another component of sedimentary rocks, that they can be flaky. That's the kind of rock you could kind of come up to and shake some of the particles off. So that could mean, again, maybe there isn't that permanence that they claim to have with the cementation. So I would say that yes, if somebody called you their sedimentary rock, it would be a compliment. They would not be accusing you of imprisoning them within their relationship. But it would be one that this is probably a person that is going to help you in those times where, maybe you're being a little bit closed off or not as open-minded or tolerant. Somebody who's a sedimentary rock would remind you of that and kind of coax that out of you again. Igneous. Okay, so this is formed when magma, which is molten rock, cools and crystallizes. This can happen inside volcanoes or just within the Earth's crust at the mantle. And all magma develops underground in the lower course and the upper mantle because of the intense heat. From a positive standpoint, if you are somebody's igneous rock, you are someone who is able to, because these rocks are formed when the magma cools, okay? So this is someone who's able to cool down that intense heat and molten rock inside the other person, and you're able to cool them down but also crystallize them and make it something a lot more shimmering and cool and comfortable. Igneous rock would be a really wonderful person to have. As contrast that with metamorphic, they're both dealing with the intensity of the other person. But in a metamorphic case, you're going to change. You're going to kind of change who you are to fit that molten activity. I think in the case of an igneous rock, you are not necessarily changing, but you are able to cool down the other person, rather than just maybe absorb or incorporate or adapt to that intense heat that somebody else might be bringing. From a negative standpoint, I couldn't really think of a negative that an igneous rock would be bringing to a relationship, but I could see that the negative would be more on the part of the ignition, because they would, there was kind of like that one, the ignition, the sedimentarist, and the metamorphician, anyway, oh yeah, here's that North Dakota map again, and look at the girl with the gasoline man. You gotta fall in love with the map, man. He'll show her how to navigate through North Dakota. Okay, and just one last thing, folks, and we'll wrap up here. But I really seriously, I was just being a smart aleck with, although, you know, the metamorphic, the isosceles, and the cumulus were the 3 types of rock. But I'm now extremely intrigued by running this same relationship analysis, which, you know, with the metamorphic and the sedimentary and the igneous, and doing that with cumulus clouds, stratus clouds, cirrus clouds, equilateral triangles, scalene triangles, and isosceles. And I think there maybe even is a way to combine all of them into almost like this 3-dimensional relationship analysis using clouds. You've heard of rock, paper, scissors. This would be rock, cloud, and triangle. And one final note here, I'll put my glasses on for this one, is that if anyone ever says, "you rock," okay, that would be a co-worker or a coworker doing that. "Hey, you rock," you know, this kind of thing. Usually my response will be, "Yeah, and I paper and scissors too." And usually it's kind of like, huh? But then every once in a while it's like, I see what you did there. Okay, so I see what you did there, man. This is You Are My Rock, and we will see you next time on the North Dakota Map Impressing a Girl show. Whoa, whoa.